And so, after feeling that he'd finally put the novel series to bed with Life, Adams felt that he was now free to work on other projects, namely an aborted big screen adaptation of Hitchhikers produced by Ivan Reitman, which sadly never came to fruition. Reitman went on to make a certain modern gothic comedy with Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, which you may have heard of. However, as Life, like the previous two novels, again became a #1 bestseller, there was a feverish desire by the fans for further installments, and bowing to pressure from the fan community and his publishers, he reluctantly set about on a fourth installment, published in 1984, called So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, as Adams had only ever envisaged the novel series being a trilogy at most. Every subsequent omnibus edition of the novel series played on the joke that this was now a trilogy in 4 parts, 5 parts, 6 parts. You get the idea. I was disappointed to find out that Adams considered So Long and Thanks for All the Fish to be a bit of a misfire, as I've always kind of loved this one. I always think there's great mileage in an established series to shake up the format a little bit, as it usually gives the proceedings a new lease of life to see your favourite characters in a context you haven't been used to thus far. The plot of Fish revolves around Arthur discovering the Earth has mysteriously been brought back into existence, returning home and discovering that he is the only person who can remember the Earth being destroyed, or so he thinks. Over the course of the novel, he finds 2 other people who also remember the destruction of Earth. One, the character of Fenchurch, mentioned briefly in the first novel and radio series as the girl in the cafe in Rickmansworth who finally realises how the Earth can be a good and happy place mere moments before it's destroyed by the Vogons, and a character who lives in California called Wonko the Sane, described as what would happen if you took David Bowie and added 3 or 4 more David Bowies onto his extraneous limbs. Having a largely Earth-based story for the first time in Hitchhikers leads to some elements that Adams just would not have been able to include in the previous installments. Imaginative concepts like a character who's never known a time when it wasn't raining his entire life, and the explanation being he's an actual rain god. Wacky real-world characters like Murray Bostock Henson, a mad journalist Adams based on his friend Stephen Fry, who interestingly enough went on to play the character in the Quandary phase. Mad dotty ladies selling raffle tickets to buy kidney dialysis machines, and another first for Hitchhikers, an actual sex scene. Adams' newfound ability to draw on the absurdities of the real world, not having to rely on the filter of science fiction and his own imagination, gives his writing a whole new lease of life here. This is Hitchhikers done as a British rom-com. It actually feels like a Richard Curtis movie in certain sections. And it's also a mystery novel, with Arthur and Fenchurch's quest to find out where they actually are, providing great intrigue. Believe me, it's a far more engaging mystery than the Cricket Men story from Life, the Universe and Everything. I've always loved the new lease of life Adams' writing got from this shake-up of the format. At the centre of the novel, there's a chapter set in Hyde Park, which is structured so brilliantly. It begins as a simple date scene between Arthur and Fenchurch, but over the course of the pages, it's slowly revealed just how much these characters know about the uncertainty of the planet they are living on, leading to the revelation that Fenchurch actually has in her possession a copy of Arthur's guide, and the cat finally being out of the bag that she has been dating a man who's been touring the galaxy for 8 years. One of my favourite sections in all the novels. Of course, like all the books, it's not entirely perfect. You do have to overlook how slightly stalkerish Arthur comes across in the early sections of the novel. In order to finish this one, there's an urban myth about Adams' publisher actually having to lock him in a hotel room for a week, plying him with endless cups of tea in order to get him to finish some form of a workable draft that could go into publication. And like many of Adams' novels, it does show signs of being written in a hurry in certain sections. He clearly doesn't know what to do with Ford throughout the book, resorting to giving him a dream sequence at one point. Although I have to admit, I do kind of love the grapefruit joke.
Life, he said, is like a grapefruit. How so? Well, it's sort of orangey yellow and dimpled on the outside, wet and squidgy in the middle. It's got pips inside too. Oh, and some people have half a one for breakfast.
completely nonsensical, but it always gets a giggle out of me. But overall, I do genuinely love this book. It's my third favourite of the series after the first two. I really hope Adams gave it a re-evaluation before his death, because if this is a misfire, then for me, the subsequent instalment, Mostly Harmless, was the revolver jamming entirely.